This is your host, Tia. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Top 10. Live. Geek Vibes Nation. Geek Vibes Nation. The Top 10. The Top
10. Oh gosh, hello everyone, and welcome back to another amazing episode of the Top 10 by Geek Vibes Nation. I'm your host, Tia, and the person who is just coughing is Brittany. How are you this morning? I'm pretty sure that made it, like, you coughed just as I hit record.
No, I'm sorry. You ever get like such like a tickle in your chest that you're like your body just like convulses with coughs, and you're like, no, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, that happens to me all the time, and especially in like this like sort of, you know, climate out there. It's you cough and you're like, give everyone that look like, I'm okay, you'll all be okay.
It's like the best thing is like, you know, working at a grocery store and we're so careful about staying away from people, but no customer cares about that, and they'll lean over you to like get something if I'm trying to get something, and then they cough like right over me. I'm like, no, stop it.
I want to say people here in New York aren't necessarily like that simply because it's like we have, like, Yonkers was pretty much the hub of the outbreak. So people really were like, get the hell away from me. Like, even I went a month ago to the Burger King right near me, which I know, like, fast food is not good for you. I just need something quick. And this one guy was like coughing and getting really close to this other guy, and the other guy like literally turned around and like shouted like, back the fuck away. And I was like, people don't like play in this climate, you know, especially I guess here, you know, where so many people were being affected.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, that was the thing that got me. Is like we're so coached on try to stay 6 feet away from people, and you're like, it's really hard when other people don't respect that. It's really hard to stay away from someone if they're coming at you.
No, I know. It's just ridiculous. But I hope everyone out there not only stays safe due to COVID, but the incidences that are happening around America right now, please just be safe, everyone out there, obviously. But Brittany and I, first of all right, really quick. I was like talking Brittany's ear off just now about Crazy Rich Asians, even though it came out in 2018. I just watched it yesterday, and I see why it was such a phenomenon. It was so amazing. I wanted to watch it like again as soon as I finished it. It was so good. So it's pretty much right now all on my mind.
I'm gonna say, like, she was intense. You would think, like, it's the best movie of the year, even though it's not this year.
It's the best movie of, like, the century. Now, I'm really quick, like, if you liked My Big Fat Greek Wedding, I feel like it's like that, you know, someone who may be outside of a certain culture marrying into that family, and while the couple loves each other, there's this like resistance of accepting like the quote unquote outsider, you know, and that was in My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and that was very much in Crazy Rich Asians. So I feel like, you know, that's why I think the two are so similar. But yeah, you should definitely check out. Go ahead.
Say, that movie, as you were explaining to me, remember in fanfiction.net, there's so many tags, and one of them was like hurt/comfort, and I never quite got what that meant, but that that tag reminds me of this movie. It's like, we're gonna hurt you and then we're gonna soothe it.
That kind of is a good way to describe it, where it's like, we're going to make you really sad and really hurt, and then we're going to obviously resolve it at the end. And it's like, good, you better. I'd be really pissed if you didn't.
They just left it off with the bad ending, like what you told me, and then they just left it at that, and it never got better.
I mean, I kind of thought that that's how they were going to end it. I told my mom that I wouldn't have minded if it just ended with her, say, rejecting him and going back to her life and realizing, there's nothing wrong with, coming from a single mother and, she doesn't need the acceptance of some rich, snobby person. Like, I would have been okay with that, Even though it wasn't Nick's fault, I would have been okay with that is how it ended. I was like, girl, you can just find someone in New York, like, who isn't so bougie.
Right?
So, yeah. But we're not doing anything Crazy Rich Asians related for this top 10. We are doing something very simple, and I told Brittany the sole reason why I wanted to do this is because I have been watching so many shows recently that I just want to talk about them. So it is going to be the top 10 shows that we recommend. I believe that I'll be doing a lot of current shows, while Brittany will probably be doing shows that she just thinks that you need to watch right now.
Oh, heck yeah.
Brittany, why did you message me? I'm sorry. I'm blasting you on air, I know.
Oh, for comment. Getting that like sudden urge to come where I was like, oh no, because I heard you laughing as soon as the intro was going. I was like, oh no.
I loved it. It was perfect. But yeah, I guess we should just kind of dive right into the list. Of course, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at the Main Damie channel. I will say that, of course, I say this every single week. You need to listen to They Called This a Movie. This week, they did Justice League, and oh God, it was brilliant, like their podcast. But they also have another podcast called Stranger Damies, which is the ongoing Real Play D&D podcast from the Main Damie family of podcasts. Make sure you join them every Wednesday as the Wild Stallions traverse the many traps and tribulations that Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition has to throw in their path. There's elves, weird half-dragon people, conspiracies to uncover, and more references to the 1980s than Ready Player One. Make sure you subscribe to them on all podcast services by searching Stranger Damies, and follow them on Twitter and Instagram at Stranger Damies. Stranger Damies is also a proud member of Geek Vibes Nation. You can find us at geekvibesnation.com. Just follow us in general because we have amazing content. I don't know why you're not following us anyway. We have plenty of podcasts like this top 10 podcast, Geek Vibes Live. We do plenty of reviews, interviews. We also have Scene a Nerd and plenty of other podcasts that you need to check out, and you just better do it. Right, Brittany?
It is like a dominatrix, but like in the sense of like forcing you to do the podcast. Like, yeah, do it.
Well,
do
I
it.
mean, have you ever watched a YouTube video where the YouTuber stops every 5 minutes to go, make sure you subscribe and like and put on notifications? I mean, I just at least do it once on my podcast.
Sophia Nygaard, I love her, but she goes, smash that. Like she always like makes it so elongated. So I like your version of it, Tia. Very, very to the point.
To the point.
That's sitting there right now listening to this. Go follow.
I mean, listen, let's cut out the bullshit. But let's just start this list again. It's the top 10 shows we recommend. Brittany, why don't you start it off for us?
I'm going to go with an oldie but a goodie, but just because it's pretty old, but I enjoyed it so much and I still need to finish it. But Prison Break.
Oh,
Tia
nice.
knows this one well because Tia knows how hard it is to actually catch my attention with a show. Like, I'm very easy to like pit her off and not finish something or not pay attention to it. I'll leave it on the background and go, yeah, I'm on episode 30, but I've only listened to 25% of it. But no, it gets me with I almost said the movie. It's basically like a really crazy prison movie, just a really, really long one. But I can't remember what year it was made, but the story of we have, I'm trying to remember his last name. But his first name's Michael, right? It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Yes, Schofield or something like that.
Bill. His brother's wrongfully convicted. He does this whole master plan to break out his brother because his brother is going to be executed, right? Because they're talking about, like, he got framed for something and the best way to silence him is to put him on death row. It's been this whole crazy thing. And, well, the thing is that Schofield's so freaking intelligent that, he tattoos this entire plan on his body because, he can't just take out this whole plan with him into prison and go, yeah, you know what? I want to break up my brother. Let me take those papers with me. So he ends up getting a whole full bodysuit tattoo, right? And then ends up going into prison, which it's so it cracks me up how he gets into prison. I love how he's just like, what does he do? Does he shoot up the building, but he doesn't like kill anybody or hurt anyone, then just drops the gun like, okay, I'm good now. Ends up getting sent to prison.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, he, like, goes into a bank and, like, pretty much goes, I don't even think he robs the place. He's just like, this is a stick-up, and, like, shoots the ceiling and then just, like, waits there. Like, something that was, like, really just whatever. And I even think that, like, the cops or the judge weren't even going to give him, like, a lot of time, but he, like, insisted that he do the maximum, which was, like, 5 years or something like that. It was crazy. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. I was just trying to, like, sometimes it's hard to describe a story from start to finish, but basically just him going into the prison system, dealing with all these colorful characters, whether it be Teabag or, what was his name, Mayfield?
Which one was that?
I think that was the Italian dude that can make shit happen.
I forget. I'm just going to say yes.
But it was such a good show, and just, like, everything that goes on in it, but it had me so captured for the time I was watching it. Like, I would catch myself trying to do, like, the normal thing where it's like, oh, I'll play on my phone and just listen, right? But I have a bad habit of something really good, like, I'll have my phone in my hand and it'll go black from, like, inactivity, as I'm doing something. I'm just staring at the screen because, like, there's never a boring part in that. Like, how in some shows there's so much filler before you get actually to what you are. And it felt like Orange is the New Black, but the male version, I guess, is like a big way of how it felt, but even better. Like, it was so well thought out. And there was nothing in it that I went, man, that wouldn't happen in prison. That's like, a leap. But it was all pretty good. And even, like, what's funny is they almost even have their version of Porn Stash in it. The bad CO officer, the correctional officer that ends up being okay in the end. It becomes better than we thought. I don't know. It's a whole big thing. But yeah, if you haven't seen Prison Break, check that shit out.
Yeah, I remember starting Prison Break because it, was, like, talked about as a really phenomenal show. People really liked it, and I think it was one of those shows that people always considered being canceled too soon. And I like Wentworth Miller, who plays the main character. His relationship with the guy who plays his brother, I think Dominic something, which is great because they also, like, played those two characters in The Flash. Captain Cold.
Still good.
Yeah, when The Flash is still good. But yeah, so I liked Wentworth Miller, but you're right. It, like, so much of it was, like, say, extra, But it's like, I get it, right? He loved his brother, and despite, say, because I think that they didn't necessarily have the best of relationships because his brother was always getting into trouble, whereas Michael was a little more straight edge. But that didn't matter because his brother was put on death row, and he was convinced that his brother was completely innocent. So it's like the lengths that he was willing to go to save his brother, even so much as putting himself in danger and making himself a fugitive.
And I think another big reason was with his brother having a kid. He was so protective for that into, like, oh, you know, you don't want to leave the kid at orphan. But, like, it goes so much deeper than just being framed. Like, you get the government involved. It becomes so much bigger than I thought. I was like, man, this is... I didn't find out this right.
No, it definitely was like, whoa, there's so much more to the story than you even thought. And as you said, freaking, you have all these like colorful characters such as Teabag, who really was just frightening as hell. I particularly loved when he got his hand cut off. I was like, oh my God. And then Michael's relationship with, what's her name, Sarah?
I'm trying to remember her name, but yes, like, their relationship was cute, which is so funny, because isn't it funny how something can happen in a show, but if it happens in real life, you're, like, disgusted, like, somebody ending up with an inmate, you're like, why would you ever do that? Or, like, but then it happens in a show, and you're like, it was true love, you know, they're separated by the system.
That is very true, because I hear stories about that happening in real life, and you're like, what? But in the show, you're like, oh, I think because, first of all, like, Wentworth Miller is really cute, right? And we know that he's innocent, you know, that he didn't really do anything bad. He just pretty much got himself in there to be the good guy and save his brother, so you could, you know, push that aside. So I think maybe, I don't know, I feel like that was a big reason why. But I don't know if you remember, because this show is really old, but Frank Grillo was in the first season.
What? Oh, was that the guy that, like, was supposed to kill, the brother in prison? Oh, no, he was the guy helping the wife. Like,
Yeah,
the dude's wife and Kitty. Oh my God, that was Frank Grillo.
I love how your head is just like spinning right now.
Like, it's like, oh, I was like, oh, he played a little part, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, oh no, he played a big part. He ends up getting shot over that lady. And you almost, wait, were they married? I think they were divorced, or like getting divorced or something, because I remember a lot of people ship Frank Grillo's character was the wife.
So she was the brother, like Michael's brother's ex. I don't know if she was an ex-wife or an ex-girlfriend. She was an ex, right? And but at this point, it was kind of like she had also been convinced that he was innocent. So even though necessarily I don't think that they were going to get back together, she still was like, we've been in each other's lives for so long that I don't want to say. What'd you say?
This is the father of my child. The whole thing.
Right. So Frank Grillo played this character at first where it's like he also had someone who had in his like life who had been wrongfully convicted, so he acted as if like he was there to solely help her, but in fact he was there employed by the same system that had put him in that prison in the first place. So that was wild.
So was him getting shot fake then?
No,
like set up?
He got shot because of just pretty much like a sloppy thing, because it's like he was having this facade and he got shot, but then that facade kind of like, you know, got lifted and blah, blah, blah. Like there was a lot going on. Like
That's exciting. That's good writing. I like it.
Brittany's going to be messaging me after this and go, what'd you say?
So what a twist.
What a twist. I was going to say, you're going to be messaging me afterwards like, oh, we need to brainstorm.
Yeah, well, no, it's already there. Like, don't worry. Like, I am so far ahead of you. I don't know what I could put at the end of that sentence. I'm just really far ahead of you already.
You did a really good job there describing. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, I really liked Prison Break. There were a few, like, I won't lie, there were a few seasons that I was just okay with. And I didn't watch the current season because they came out with a 5th season about a year or so ago. And I didn't watch it. But either way, I think that Prison Break is still worthy, especially those first 2 seasons. I want to say the first 2 seasons were probably the best seasons. So definitely make sure you check that out. I'm going to do number 9, and it is going to be like a fun kind of small, it's a current, so again, most of my shows are current shows. And it literally just only came out with 3 episodes, and it's really fun, and I think that you should definitely check it out. And it's going to be Love Life on HBO Max. Now, Love Life is like a comedy, romance type of show, and it stars Anna Kendrick, and her character is this character, Darby, and it's going to be 10 episodes, which follows this girl, Darby, in her love life, right? So it's going to pretty much be exploring the first love of her life to say the second love of her life. Like every episode is going to be about someone who had a significant role in her journey, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. And Anna Kendrick is one of those people that sometimes I think she's really like cute and charming, and sometimes I think she's a little annoying, to be honest with you. Like, she is in this show called Dummy on Quibi, and it's so bad, and it's so annoying, and she's so annoying in it. But so I was a little hesitant to watch Love Life, but she's really charming in it. She's very relatable. You know, she's like a 20-something in New York, just trying to navigate through the dating scene pretty much, right? And she's not particularly even looking, like she's not one of those like who are trying to actively look for a boyfriend. It's just like happens upon her, right? And each episode, and I don't know, I like her friends, I like the work that she's in. So really quick, the first episode deals with this guy, Augie, that she meets, and she really likes Augie, right? And she loves Augie, honestly. And they have a great relationship until Augie tells her, because he works for the news site Politico, and he tells her that he's going to be like moving across the frickin' like country or world or something because of his job. So pretty much their relationship has an expiration date, and that's really sad. So you can tell that's sad. It's really sad. And then in episode 2 is my man Scoot McNairy's character, who comes in, who was her former boss. So that's kinky. And then
Heck yeah.
And then freaking episode 3 is her kind of having like a bit of a fling. So just to kind of show like what's significant there. But I don't know. I just really like it. It's really fun. It's really just easy to watch. And I think that it's very real. It shows like, you know, again, a young 20-something-year-old going through the world of dating and all that. I just really like it. I like how they're presenting each episode and the stories. It's, again, she doesn't seem Mary Sue. She seems very real. Like in episode 3, right? She is like single, and she's going to get something at the nearby coffee shop, and she runs into Augie, and this is like 2 years after they stopped dating, and she's like, what are you doing back in New York City? And he's like, oh, well, you know, I quit my job, and I met this new girl, and we're going to go fucking like cross-country caravanning. And she like goes home to her roommate, and she's like, I just ran into like the guy who I loved, who broke up with me for his career, but apparently quit his career for another woman, and I was wearing Crocs. Like,
oh my gosh, I like how that finds its way into the story.
Yeah, she's like, and I'm wearing Crocs, and I just like it. I don't know, and I'm excited because I just saw, so they released the first 3 episodes when HBO Max launched this past week, and it was supposed to be every Thursday they release a new episode, but the episodes are only about like 40 minutes each, so I just saw that they're actually releasing 3 episodes on Thursday, and then the next week they'll release the final 4 episodes because apparently it's very popular, so we don't have to wait. I'm like, yes, because the idea of having to like go week by week for like a half hour, 40-minute show was gonna kill me.
I was gonna say too, it's like, does Scoot show up more than once?
So apparently he is supposed to have a recurring role. He shows up in episode 1 as her boss, right? Because it starts off with her being a tour guide at this museum, and he is setting up for his own wedding to this girl, Kate. And it's really funny because, like, he, you know, is, like, telling Darby, his character's name is Bradley, right? And he's telling Darby, oh, here's your group that you're going to be being the tour guide for. And it's like some terrible like bachelorette group. And she's like, oh, fuck you. And she's like, why do I like working here again? And he's like, maybe because you can tell your boss to go fuck himself. And she's like, oh yeah. So actually the first episode, she brings Augie to Bradley's wedding as a date, and that's their last night together. That's Darby and Augie's last night is literally Bradley's wedding. So you see the wedding between Bradley and Kate, and then the next episode literally starts off with Kate and Bradley in couples therapy. And the next scene you see him in is Darby dropping off his stuff at his home because the program that they were in got shut down. And he explains about the divorce between him and Kate. And that's a surprise to Darby. She didn't know. And he explains, you know, me and Kate were together for 11 years. And we were married for 1 year. And we freaking divorced. So he was in episodes 1 and 2. He wasn't in episode 3. But according to his IMDb page, he's supposed to be in the others, so I don't know how and what capacity, or if the website. What'd you say?
I said he better or we riot.
Oh yeah, I love his character, even though like him and Darby broke up. I saw these like people on Tumblr were like, oh, I love Augie, which yeah, Augie was great. They're like, and the guy that Darby slept with in episode 3 was like just dumb. And they're like, but fuck Bradley, he was an asshole. I'm like, no, he wasn't. I was like, he wasn't at least an asshole. He just is a tired old man who frickin' doesn't, you know, want to party until 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like Darby didn't really conduct herself very well at the funeral. She was very like, you know, not annoying, but inappropriate to the point where she was like expecting him to be like introducing her around to his family, and obviously that didn't happen. And then Bradley's ex-wife Kate shows up because, you know, she was in the family for so long, and so there's at some point where Darby's like, oh hi Kate, she's like, you know, I just want you to know, like, during the time you and Bradley were together, I never, you know, even thought about anything. And she's like, oh, Darby, we're not doing this here.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, so, and then Darby does get really drunk, and she makes a toast, which was very cringy, and I had to mute it, because I was like, I can't handle this.
Those are the worst, when you have to end up muting, like, a certain scene or skipping it, because it causes you so much, like, shit that you don't want to watch it.
Well, I was watching it, I was like, Darby, please, no. Darby, please, no. Please stop, Darby. Why are you making a toast at his father's wake?
Darby, no. Why? Bad Darby.
Bad Darby. So, he broke up with her because, spoiler alert, I guess, he broke up with her because he said he just wasn't ready for a relationship after all that. So, yeah. But Love Life is pretty fun.
I'm gonna say, like, I feel like I need to watch it, but, like, my brain goes, if it's on HBO, I feel like things get a little, heated.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's that sex scene between her and Bradley, which is hot as hell. But, you know, I don't think, like, you know, besides that, it's just like regular like kissing, like anything that you'd see on freaking cable TV, you know. There's been no nudity. I think I saw something that Anna Kendrick has in her contract that she'll never get nude.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, no, it's fair. So I'm saying, like, you never see her, like, you know, tits out or anything. You never see, like, anyone, like, you know, whatever.
I always think it's funny because she always plays like the good girl, but also the bad girl, but just bad enough, but good enough that she's not nude.
Yeah, right. Just like you keep them wanting more. But yeah, so my number 9 is going to be Love Life, which again I know is like small. It only has 3 episodes out, but I don't know. If you're looking for something that's kind of more lighthearted to watch, I definitely suggest Love Life. And if you're a fan of Scoot McNairy like I am, definitely check it out because he's looking fine in it.
Oh my gosh, I was gonna say Tia's obsession with Scoot is like hilarious because like I know you go in waves, but like this has been a long-standing one. But I think also too a lot of like obsessions throughout the years they almost go on hiatus. They don't show up in a lot of stuff, but he's like on his upswing where it feels like he's in everything right now.
He's one of those actors that definitely like places himself in everything, which is like good for you. Keep working, man. Like that's how it is. So
You know, see hasn't been typecasted because I see him play good guys, bad guys, tough guys, soft guys, grumpy men.
well, I did like read this article where they were like, you just did Narcos Mexico, which was really intense. You've done dramas like Halt and Catch Fire, 12 Years a Slave, all these other like kind of like more serious roles. What drew you to this? And he was saying how if you go back in his career, the first like 10 years of his career, he was doing more like comedies and stuff, and that he kind of broke away from that to do these more serious roles, and that it did feel good to kind of go back to more of his like lighthearted route.
Yeah, I would say because he's played in some serious shit lately.
Hell yeah, which I don't mind. I like the serious shit. But yeah, so Love Life is going to be my number 9. Brittany, what is your number 10?
I think I'm gonna go with American Gods.
Yes!
Because it's still technically still going on, but like for anybody that hasn't seen it, so basically it's about like how how in every culture, every tribe, everybody in some shape or form throughout the past has had their deities, their gods, right? Whether it be the Christian god, whether it be the Nordic gods, the Greek gods, but it's basically showing that they all exist or all existed at some point because human belief is enough to make something exist. And I love because they even talk about like how people believe that the like they're like whenever what is it called, War of the Worlds, I'm trying to remember what it's called, like the big alien thing, like it was a big thing where they did this whole like, oh, the Martians are attacking, all
Yeah.
that, and people got really worked up and they said that was enough belief to make that truly exist because enough people believed it, or that all throughout the years, whether it was the Greek gods, that they were so powerful because there were so many people believing in them. But as people stop believing, they start growing weaker. So it all forms around, Shadow Moon, who, his wife dies, who had an affair on him. You're meeting a leprechaun, which, later on it's a little more in depth about that. You meet Mr. Wednesday, who you'll find out very soon, like within the first season, so spoiler alert, that he's Odin, which you should know he's Odin because he's missing an eye and he has 2 ravens, or like one, I can't remember how many ravens he has, that do its bidding. So I'm going to say, like, he's Odin, basically manipulating or using Shadow Moon to go about his own agenda. But it's so interesting to go between meeting all these gods in the story, and it's so funny because you even have when Easter rolls around and there's like a million different types of Jesus at this affair because so many people believe in so many different versions of them. They just created all these different ones, but it's so good because it's such a, like, you have this war between the old gods, like you say Odin, I was trying to think of another old god that I was like, that was a part of it. What's his name? the old Russian god.
Oh, why can't I remember right now? You put
No,
me
I
on the
was
spot.
I'm having trouble remembering the old gods that were in it because they're more obscure ones, you know. But then you roll in with the new gods who are like Mr. World, who personifies globalization. You have media, because people worship their media. Because and she's always taking different forms like Lucille Ball, David Bowie, all these different characters, or technical boy, because people worship technology, and it's just this big struggle between them for wanting this belief to become as powerful as they do. Because you even find out, Odin, for like nobody really believing in him anymore, he's so powerful that get one person to believe in him, and he's strong enough to like wipe some shit out. Like he a scary dude, but it's so interesting because I think humans are so linked to worship and to just get to see all these different versions in something and see, what their powers can do or their personalities. It's so interesting. And that's actually a series I've actually finished, caught up to, because the new season is coming out. The only thing that makes me sad is it's like we start to lose actors that are in it, and you get so used to them. But the good thing about the show is that they can easily interchange out these actors so that they don't just truly just get rid of the character altogether. Most of the time, I hope there is one character that would come back, or at least like a version of him. But yeah, good show. Good show.
I love American Gods. It's definitely one of my favorite shows. It's funny, so I feel like, my one thing is that I feel like the reveal for Odin at the end of season 1 did not slap the way they wanted it to, because I feel like they had already revealed it in the season. It wasn't like he was being shy about revealing who it was, and at some point someone even had called him, like, other nicknames that Odin has, right? And so it's like, you knew it was Odin. You clearly knew it was Odin. And he was like, I am Odin. And I think it was only Shadow didn't know, because Shadow's so oblivious to everything.
Yeah, like, it definitely, like, I think they called him, like, the one-eyed one, or,
Yeah.
Like, they were calling him something like, Odin? Odin?
Well, and I really love this show. I love the concept of that it's all these gods exist simply because people believed, because it's really the whole, what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? And like, media has this really great line in the first season where she was like, it's something, and I'm going to butcher it, but something akin to what you're saying, where it's like people believed so much that now there are Martians in the sky, Oh, like, didn't Technical Boy say something like, not everyone believes, and she's like, not everyone has to, only just enough, or something, and it was so good, right?
Yeah.
There's so many fantastic characters. I like how they expanded on characters who you didn't really see in the book, because after season 1, I went back and I read the book, because I had to. It's like I was so obsessed with it. So seeing, like Matt Sweeney, Pablo Schreiber, who is such an underrated actor and needs to be appreciated more, and he actually shows up on my list later, but he was so fantastic as Matt Sweeney, and that's a character who had literally like 1 or 2 pages in the book and was a huge part of season 1 and 2. That was great. I personally like season 2 better, even though I know season 2 had a lot of problems behind the scenes. I like the direction better. I thought the storytelling was cleaner, but because season 1 was more of an introductory season for those who had no idea about the story or these characters. I love Bruce Langley as Technical Boy, and where they went with him. Crispin Glover as Mr. World is like so daunting and scary, and so scary. I have to say, on air because I love American Gods, and you should absolutely still watch it. 100%. It is such a great show, and the actors definitely deserve for you to watch it. But I will say that what happens behind the scenes makes me incredibly sad what they did to Orlando Jones, because he was one of the best characters in that show as a Nancy or Mr. Nancy. Not only was he a phenomenal character, and Orlando Jones did a great job, but in season 2, when they lost their new showrunner, he stepped up and he wrote most of the frickin' season. He wrote his own lines. He wrote a lot of Matt Sweeney's. He wrote a lot of Laura Moon's. Like, he wrote a lot of that shit, right? And the new showrunner for season 3 pretty much kicked him off the show because he said that his character was too angry, whereas that is how the character is supposed to be. That's the character in the book. Yeah, that's how
he's been since season 1.
And I don't understand where the showrunner even got off in saying that, oh, that is going to cause, like, problems, because if you looked on Twitter, the response for any time that he had these big moments, people loved it. People thought that it was important for him to be saying the things about racial divide that he was saying and that we see is so prevalent in today's society. So for you to be like, oh, you're too angry and your character is going to cause racial divide, it's like you then don't get the point, you know? And so that just makes me sad. Like, it really does, you know, and I still am going to support the show because I love the characters, I love the story, but after speaking with Orlando Jones and knowing what happened behind the scenes and also hearing what he himself had planned for season 3, because he was going to write scripts for season 3. He had plans for characters like Technical Boy that, like, when he told me, I was like, oh, we don't get that now?
Right. And I think, like, I'm trying to remember her name, the love goddess, the sex goddess.
Bilquis.
What I loved is even the discussions that they could have together to give, like, a different insight. You know, it was like one of those things that they didn't always claim that what he said was the absolute fact, but for them to have a discussion on the subject itself and the pure anger he had and seeing her softer side to kind of, like, it made the best conversation for it.
Even the scene in the funeral home with Nancy, Bilquis, and Mr. Ebis, you know, for them, those three to have the conversation that they did was just so powerful. And Orlando Jones wrote that. He wrote that entire scene.
And, you know, the cast was really diverse if you think about it. You know, because, like, you have Shadow Moon, Laura Moon, you have Mr. Ebis, as you said, Bilquis, and Nancy, and New Media. Like, it was such a good, diverse cast.
Yeah, that was important too, right? To show that on screen, to have such a, like, diverse cast. And it's just, when you have, like, you know, it's one of those things where I was so excited when they brought in a showrunner for season 3, because I was like, good, at least it's guaranteed that we're getting a season 3, and, you know, you have all that locked down because the showrunner from season 2 had left, right? But then it's like, it seems like this new showrunner is so tone deaf and doesn't, like, really realize what it is that everyone really likes about this show. So that does honestly make me a little nervous for season 3. But Ricky Whittle, who plays Shadow Moon, has been saying really good things about season 3, and the woman who plays Bilquis, which now I can't remember her freaking name, and she is, like, one of the most gorgeous people on the face of the earth. She has also been saying really good things. So hopefully they're right, you know? But as Brittany was saying, I'm sad that Matt Sweeney's not coming back. Orlando Jones did confirm that Matt Sweeney's not coming back.
You know what I think gets me is when they get a new showrunner come in, it's kind of like it's like they have such a drive to make it so different because they want to make their mark on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't always work. Like you say, like with The Walking Dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything, like things were going downhill, but Carl was supposed to be Gohan. He was supposed to take over the show, right?
And then a new showrunner comes in and kills him off.
Yeah, because that doesn't happen in the comics. That doesn't happen. Like, yeah, they got a lot with, like, still keeping on with Negan and Alpha, but it was like, what gets me about, like, talking about that show on top of this, they could have made so many different parts longer, and I love Negan. I am a Negan fangirl, but to make all that so long and then kill Carl, and it just felt like that showrunner. It's like you get one showrunner that's just like, screw the last people. It's my show now. It's like they get such a big head about it, and it's almost like that's what happened with American Gods for the new season.
Yeah, and anyone who's listening, I'm not trying to dissuade you from watching the show. It's phenomenal. It's why it's on this list. Season 1 and 2 are so great. I liked Season 2 a lot. I loved it. As I just said, there are so many amazing parts. You can actually check out, Brittany and I did a top 10 for both the first season and second season of American Gods. Like, we loved it. I'm hesitant about Season 3 because I dislike that Orlando Jones isn't returning. I dislike that Matt Sweeney isn't returning, even though, again, he had like no part pretty much in the book, but he's not returning. The Musa Kraish, who plays the Jinn, isn't returning. And I mean, all right, I'll be honest, New Media isn't returning, but I'm okay with that because I didn't like her character. Nothing against the actress, I just didn't like her character. But so you have like 4 people who aren't returning. Granted, they're bringing all these new people in, but that also scares me a little because it's like all these new people. It's like we love American Gods because of the characters. But as you said, Brittany, you did say it's almost like Supernatural where they can change out forms because even though Crispin Glover is coming back as Mr. World, both Danny Trejo, which is fucking great, Danny Trejo and this woman, I don't know her name, they're coming in as Mr. and Ms. World, other personifications of Mr. World. Did you not know that? Did you not know that?
No, that's so good.
Yeah, so Crispin Glover will come back as Mr. World, but there's Danny Trejo and this woman who is on, I think she's on Pose or something, but they're coming in also as versions of Mr. World, which would make sense because and I'm sorry to interrupt really, really quick, in the book, they do explain that these characters, like the new gods, and even the old gods, there is at one point where there's an Odin in America and an Odin in Norway, right? But they explain how in the book that Mr. World, Media, and Technical Boy, they aren't just one, they're a group. So there's Technical Boys, there's multiple Media, there's multiple Mr. World. So I think maybe they're exploring that.
That's so good. And all I was going to do is make a joke about Crispin Glover. Like, if they couldn't get him, they could always get someone that looks kind of like him and do the stuff on his face to make him look like him, because that's what happened in Back to the Future.
Oh, my God.
Did you hear about that?
Yes, I did. He was only in the first...
Funny.
He was only in the first movie, and I think he sued them. Because they didn't
suit them.
They didn't ask for his permission to use his likeness, which is like, what you doing there, guys?
It's funny because the facial prosthetics they had used were like from, I think, the first movie, and that and that they had like modeled it off of his face. And then when they rolled in and he was wanting too much to do the next movie, right, they were like, okay, well, we'll just get somebody that looks like him and put these facial prosthetics that we got making on his face. We'll make him look just alike, and he wasn't having none of it, do you?
I mean, I wouldn't blame him. That's really quick, that's like, the song, It's Raining Men, Hallelujah, those two, both of them, right, were heavy-set women. And one of them had recorded another song in the 90s, which I forget what it is. It's a popular song, right? She recorded the song, and they didn't tell her that they were going to do the music video, and they got this super skinny woman to be in the music video, and her like lip syncing it to make it seem like as if she was singing the song, when in reality it was this woman from It's Raining Men singing that.
What?
Yeah, it was the 90s, man, the 90s. But
was Vanilla? Wait,
oh,
Vanilli?
Milli Vanilli. Yeah, that too was recorded by like some German group, and they got two guys to like do the song. But it actually was really sad because I saw this like whole thing how like Milli Vanilli, they were pretty much both like immigrants. They didn't speak very good English, and they're pretty much like taken advantage of by their manager, and they did want to have like an actual genuine music career, but they were pretty much like contractually forced to do this.
That's so sad. I was gonna say, you also had who was the sister that was on SNL that
oh my god, Jessica Simpson's sister, Ashley Simpson. She was on SNL trying to perform, and the track messed up, and then she did the most awkward little like Irish jig. It was so ridiculous.
It makes me cringe because I do stupid shit like that when I'm super awkward, and I was like, no, BB, what you doing? What you doing? Stop it.
I want to say both that revealed that none of the music on SNL is live, and also I think kind of ruined her career, which again, she's like part of the Simpsons, so she's probably not pining for money, but it pretty much I think ruined her singing career. But let's move on because we have spent a lot of time on this, which I don't mind, but we're going in like 3 million different directions. Just watch American Gods, please, okay? That's all you need to know. But let's see. All right, I will go with another current show just because I love it, and it is in the middle of it, so yeah. Anyway, so another HBO show, actually. It's called I Know This Much Is True. And it's a series on HBO, which I think is on its, like, 4th episode right now. But it stars Mark Ruffalo and Mark Ruffalo. So Mark Ruffalo plays these twins in it, and it's based on a book. It's a drama. He plays these two twins, and one of them is a paranoid schizophrenic. So the show starts off... Let me look up their names really quick, because I don't want to get it wrong. I'm sorry, Brittany.
Good girl.
I
just like in that awkward Simpson
jig
dance. Like pass the time. So bad.
Stop it. I can't. I can't. Anyway, so in this show, Mark Ruffalo plays Dominic and Thomas, right? So Thomas is a paranoid schizophrenic. And the show starts off literally with Thomas in a public library spouting out some crazy, like, religious propaganda shit and literally cuts off his own hand, which is intense. And he says that he did it as a sacrifice to God so that God would stop war. So that's that. And throughout the season so far, it's kind of been going back and forth. Dominic narrates the season, and it's pretty much him explaining what led up to that event, and it also explores what happens after that event. It's pretty much just like Dominic, and his life and how tough it's kind of been having a brother like Thomas, but then also exploring like what he would do, like anything for Thomas, right? The first episode, the doctor pretty much says, okay, we need your permission to reattach the hand because they saved the hand, and Thomas is like begging Dominic to say no. He's like, please, and Dominic eventually says no, because even though it's like, probably the sane thing to do would be, reattach his hand, but his brother was like begging him so much, and Dominic's like, this is the first time Thomas in his whole entire life has ever had a consciousness to really like make a decision for himself. He's like, I'm not going to take that away from him. And so Dominic, but then it also explores like Dominic's life. He was married, and him and his ex-wife had a kid, and the kid died from SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. So it kind of explores like the fallout of their marriage, his current relationship with his girlfriend, him trying to frickin' get like this memoir from his grandfather translated from Italian to English. So, if you have to ask me like what's it about, it's really not about much except for just a insight on how these brothers are and their relationship. Thomas like is not the type, he can't function in society, right? No. Like there's even a flashback where after Dominic's kid dies, he explains how mad he was at Thomas because Thomas was like spouting out some shit about how, it must have been the Irish mob or something that killed Dominic's baby because, they're after him, blah, blah, blah. And he can't help himself in that. But, he was like going off, and Dominic's like, oh, he made it all about him, when my little child was in a coffin. So it's a lot, and it's very intense, but it's very good. And I recommend it because I think that people sometimes forget that Mark Ruffalo is a really phenomenal actor, and the fact that he is literally playing two different people, and I swear, Brittany, you don't even think that. You think it's by two different actors because they look different. They are completely different. He plays them completely differently. It's so believable that these are two different people. So it's so good. And I know I just rambled on for 15 minutes pretty much, but I really recommend this show.
I was going to say, on the other note about his brother cutting off his hand and whether or not to reattach it, the dude would have just cut it off again. You can't blame him that much.
Well, that's what he says, right? Like Thomas is like, "Oh, if you do it, I'll just do it again. I'll just do it again." And at this point in the show, their mother is dead, but their stepfather, who's been their stepfather since they were kids, is still alive. And there's very much like tension between the family. And the stepfather is like, "Oh, why would you do that, Dominic? He's going to have a physical handicap on top of a mental handicap." And that's where Dominic's like, "What was I supposed to do? It's his life pretty much." But right now in the show, it's dealing with where to put Thomas because the home that Thomas has been living in, like the facility that he's been living in for the past 4 years, is shutting down. So having to figure out pretty much where to put Thomas. And this is a spoiler alert because I just really like this scene, and I'm going to tell you about it, Brittany. So Dominic is with this new girl, Joy, who she's younger than Dominic. It's clearly not a good relationship. I have no idea why Dominic is even with her. Not anything particularly wrong with her. It's just it's so different. He's such he's older. He's such a serious guy who has so much in his life, and she just seems like she's very in the wind. So it's I don't know even where that happened. But they argue a lot, right? And there's at some point in it where she reveals to him that she's pregnant, right? And he's sitting there and she's like, "Aren't you happy? We made a baby, Dominic." And Dominic is just sitting there "Uh-huh." And he's like, "Are you sure it's mine?" And she was like, what kind of fucking question is that? Of course it's yours, And so he walks out of the house and she's like, "What the hell?" And a flashback happens to when he was married, right? A flashback happens to when he was married after his baby died, and his wife, right, his wife pretty much says, like, you know, that she wants to make another baby, and Dominic is like, well, I got a vasectomy. So it's like, you realize how could the girlfriend, like, be pregnant with Dominic when he had a vasectomy, you know?
No, Tia. My heart can't take that kind of stuff.
No, I know. It is, like, crazy. Like, you know, the whole thing, right? Like, at first when she said she was pregnant and Dominic didn't react correctly, I was like, all right, you know, I know that you got a lot going on, but this poor girl. But when they did the flashback and it was revealed that he had vasectomy, I was like, oh, that's why he asked, are you sure it's mine?
Oh. And your brain goes, well, what if the vasectomy messed up? What if that? And you know in shows they don't do that.
Yeah. No, of course. That's
yeah, that was not what I was expecting. Okay. Hey, thanks for breaking my heart. Yeah. No, that whole show sounds intense though. Like, especially like anytime that schizophrenia is brought up, it makes me think of Spencer and how nervous he was about getting it because of his mom.
From Criminal Minds, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was always like, geez, you know, you have to think about, what's scary is you can be completely fine your entire life, but around like the age of, I think they said like 21, is when it happens to people. And imagine you're completely fine for all that time and then suddenly that happening. That just blows my mind.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, because they say it comes out, like, you know, in your 20s or something. And you know what I actually always think of? I think of, did you ever see The Violinist?
I did not.
It's a really, really good movie with Jamie Foxx and Robert Downey Jr. And it's all about, like, how he was perfectly normal and then suddenly started, like, hearing voices in his head. And you're like, you know, it could just happen, like, that easily, right? And that's just, like, what's the scariest thing about it.
And what the thing is, too, is, like, you know, people that have it get such, like, crap for it, but to them, like, well, those moments are real to them. You know, like, when they're having these episodes, it's not like, oh, just a moment. It's like, no, to them, this is completely and utterly real.
Well, yeah, and you know, and you can see, like, I don't think that Thomas, like, does anything, like, facetiously, right? He really can't help it. He really thinks that, like, the Illuminati's after him, the frickin', you know, the Irish is after him, the this is after him, you know? It's, like, crazy.
Man, that's sad.
It's really, really sad. So I definitely recommend I Know This Is True. And Brittany, what is your number 6?
I'm going to go with, you know, I'm changing it a little bit just because I do entirely love this show so much. I'm going to go with The Walking Dead.
Yes, go for it.
It's one of those things that I definitely have issues with the newer seasons, right? Like, I have not seen them because ever since, you know, Carl dies.
Yeah.
But, spoiler alert, sorry. But also, if you've hid this long under a rock and don't know about, like, what happens in The Walking Dead right now, then I don't know what to tell you. It's kind of like when the Russo brothers, are they the ones that did the Avengers? Yeah. Where they were like, okay, y'all had 2 weeks. If y'all haven't seen the movie, it's spoiler time. But, no, this whole show, I love the premise, even though I definitely think of, what's the name of that one movie where you get the blood in your eyes? Like,
28 Days Later.
Yes. And that came out first, didn't it? About the guy. Yeah.
It did, and I will always say that The Walking Dead completely stole that from 28 Days Later because even though, The Walking Dead's based off a comic, and even the comic frickin' came out after 28 days later, and they start exactly the freaking same.
It's crazy. I do love The Walking Dead, but if you're gonna watch it, especially while in quarantine with everything still going on, it's a good time to at least get through like the first up until the famous bat scene. After the bat scene is really good too, but for like the next season after that, but then that's where it definitely starts to peter off a little bit, and there's others that would disagree that Before Negan at all is the best. But you do have like Rick Grimes, who he's a cop, and he has his partner Shane, and it starts out with, I'm trying to think of the right word for it. They are hunting down these guys that what they do, like rob a bank and like killed someone or something, and they're saying, oh, they're armed and dangerous. Basically, they confront these guys and you think everything's fine, but there's another guy that they didn't know about. Rick Grimes ends up getting shot. He goes into a coma. Well, in the middle of this coma, the zombie apocalypse happens, and ends up, he is left in the hospital. Shane, his partner, ends up saving Rick Grimes' wife and child, and ends up taking off with them, but he knows that Rick is still alive, but since he was in a coma, there was nothing he could do for him. And even though, like, Shane has such a bad reputation, and for good reason, for a certain part with Lori, but ain't nobody taking a man in a coma in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. He does end up blocking off the hospital door to his room to at least give him some kind of chance. Which, by the way, I don't know how anybody was going to live that long without, like, one, he looks fine. Like, yeah, he's sickly and all, like, gross looking, right? I don't know how long he's been there, but, like, his nails aren't long. He's not, like, all messed on himself from having been in a hospital bed for that long. I'm just like, there is definitely inconsistencies that you're kind of like, huh. But through the first seasons, it's so good watching how people are surviving. And it goes through at the beginning, yes, it's the zombies that you have to watch out for. They're the worst part, especially when they go to Atlanta and you see just how many zombies there are because of a densely populated city. And me and Tia have talked about this before too, with me living in a small town of like 10,000 people compared to her living in New York, which is a certain part of New York, but still like probably like a million times larger than my city. Yeah, like you think about how many zombies would be there, it's incredible. But just, reuniting with his family, learning to survive, learning that the zombies aren't the most dangerous thing once you learn to deal with them. Like, because it almost becomes laughable at a point when you have that many zombies that one zombie isn't that bad unless they somehow sneak up on you, how they always do. There's always someone getting a zombie sneaked up to them and biting them. It's like, dude, you're the zombie apocalypse. How did you not hear this thing groaning as it walks up to you? You cannot tell me it was completely silent, because those motherfuckers don't shut up through the entire show. But, I don't know. It's like, one thing is like, yes, I'm shitting on the show because I love it so much, but that's how you know you love a show, when you can, like, point out, yeah, there's some silliness. But I had always heard people talk about it, and also, Aaron's sister-in-law, she has made it to the finals of The Talking Dead, like, every year. Like, every year. And she is a huge super fan. Like, always, like the Walking Dead episode premiere, like, every week is, like, her jam. She is, like, there. She is having a party. She is, like, doing something. Like, it's good. It has such a great fan base. Like I said, I love Negan. I cosplayed Negan one year. It's a thing. But I don't know. It's such a good series to just, like, lose yourself in, and you can just leave on and kind of go through. I'm kind of almost tempted to start rewatching from season 1 all over again.
No, yeah, I mean, I, like, The Walking Dead is one of those shows that I completely, like, it was my life for so long. I, like, delve into it, freaking, like, all the way up to season 7, right? It was so, like, binge-worthy, and it was one of those freaking shows that was, like, a phenomenon, right? Everyone was talking about it. And I akin The Walking Dead to, say, like, Game of Thrones. It doesn't matter, like, what type of person you are, you know, whether you were a nerd or whatever, you were into The Walking Dead. Like, everyone talked about The Walking Dead. But it took me a while to watch it, and of course, we can all admit who I watched it for.
Yeah, John Bernthal. I know you, girl.
Right, yes, exactly. But I freaking, like, I really loved The Walking Dead, but my favorite seasons definitely were seasons 1 and 2.
Yeah, and we know why for that reason too. But I think like it's also she like dropped off the face of the earth after the bat scene though. Like you were all cool the series till it happened until a certain someone died and they were like fuck this shit on me. That was you.
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry. Your line went a little wonky there.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
I said that your entire life after the bat scene was fuck this shit, I'm out. Like,
Yeah.
you were done. You were done after a certain someone died.
No, you know, it's like, yes, Abraham was, like, one of my favorite characters, so I hate that he died. I just hate that the whole entire, like, episode was that one scene, and it's like, I didn't feel like, oh, that's so intense, let's make the whole episode this. It's like, I don't know, it's just, like, torturous. Like, I didn't see it as good writing, you know? I didn't see it as,
It was almost like a snuff film. Like, it felt like it was just gore for the sake of gore.
Pretty much. That's how I felt like it was. I don't know. I didn't like it after that. I think I tried watching it after that. I know that you liked it after that because, you know, all the Negan. Yes. You know Jeffrey Dean Morgan. He did a phenomenal job in that role. So the fact that, like, I think he pretty much, like, took over. Like, I think he is, like, the main person.
He's like the new Rick. Like in Judas's, like, Judith. I said Judas.
Yeah.
Judith is the new Carl.
Pretty much, but I felt bad what happened to Carl, because as you said, he was supposed to take over.
He was the chosen one.
He was the chosen. I did think that some point, tell me if I'm wrong, didn't you think that Carl was going to become, like, a serial killer at some point? I was like, there's something wrong with this kid.
Because they never fully, like, touch on, like, what is going on in his life, you know, like how it must feel for everything going on, and like then it's just like the trauma, because he's been dealing with this since he was like a small child, so I don't know, it's rough.
It's rough for a kid, you know,
in the middle of apocalypse.
You know, you can't
losing his mind.
Well, I mean, I felt bad because it's like, your father went crazy, you lost your mother, you lost technically your father, because they confirmed that Carl, no, that's not him. Sorry, I'm talking about Judith. But I guess, like, Shane was kind of like Carl's, like, stepfather.
Right? I mean, he was teaching, you know, say what you want about Shane, but he did take care of that family, and he was good to Carl, and he taught him how to do stuff. Oh, what did Carl say? He's like, oh, you know, Shane taught me how to do that. Like, he throws that back in his face at some point.
He does, because Rick is teaching him how, like, or telling him, like, how to do a knot at some point, and he's like, yeah, I know, Shane taught me that. But I still say that there was nothing wrong with Shane. Shane just behaved the way he did too early in the series.
Yes,
because
Too early.
Rick became the same exact way, but it's like when Shane was like that, the whole crew was still trying to behave the way they would have, say, pre-apocalypse, and Shane's mindset just adjusted to, that's not going to work anymore. This isn't the world we live in, so he has to change, right? But no one else at that time wanted to, and they kind of saw him as like going crazy. But Rick behaved the same exact way after a while because he saw that eventually you're gonna have to behave like that in order to survive.
It's like the Billie Eilish song, "I'm the bad guy."
Oh my god. Did you ever watch the clip in frickin' season 9 of Walking Dead, which was Rick's farewell episode, and Shane came in for like 2 seconds?
Yes, that was everything. And he's like, "You've been taking care of my baby girl."
Right. And he was like, didn't he ask too, like, "Oh, does she have my eyes? I hope she doesn't have my nose," or something like that. And then,
such a big nose.
I think, like, and they even were laughing. It was so meta because Rick was like, "Oh, you're an asshole," and he's like, "I know, I'm the asshole." Like, I think, like, showing, like, yo, like, no matter how much time has passed in The Walking Dead, no matter how many, like, bad guys have come in the mix, Shane is, like, the OG asshole. He is set up for so much. He, like, if you think about his character and his death, like, just kicked off so much that stemmed from that. And
no.
What?
Sorry to interrupt, but, like, no, anybody that I brought up The Walking Dead to, or talk about John Bernthal too, they're like, doesn't he play that fucking asshole? literally. And when I showed Aaron, like, I was like, "Oh, the Punisher," and he looked at it and he goes, "That's the guy from The Walking Dead. I hate that guy." I was like, oh no.
John Bernthal definitely solidified himself in pop culture by premiering as Shane, which, Shane did nothing wrong, okay? Shane did nothing wrong.
It's like Joffrey, where they're just, like, continually hated for the character that they played.
Don't compare Shane to Joffrey. Joffrey was a fucking asshole.
What I mean.
Well, yeah, because it's like, I think if I ever saw frickin' the actor who plays Joffrey in anything, I wouldn't be able to, like, take it seriously.
Right. That poor kid, like, he made the ultimate sacrifice because everybody's going to always know him as that. That's going to be hard to get spots, like, in things because they're all going to be like, "Oh, I want to watch that. The assholes in it."
It's got assholes in it. Oh, man. Aw. Now you kind of make me, like, what's it called? Nostalgic for The Walking Dead. You bastard.
Remember how much we were watching it before New York Comic Con? But when I was doing the cosplay for Negan, and you were showing me all the Shane parts?
Yes. I do remember all of that.
Stop it. I'm done.
But yeah, so sorry everyone. Make sure you check out The Walking Dead. It's on Netflix, and it is definitely a phenomenal series, regardless of how much we were roasting it just now. But
roasting it.
So I'm gonna move on to my number 5, and it is going to be Penny Dreadful City of Angels, another show that is still on right now. Actually, the new episodes of City of Angels and whatchamacallit, I Know This Much Is True is what was I saying? Oh my god. Both of them are still on right now, and both of them are HBO, and both of them have new episodes today. That's where I was going.
Oh,
sorry.
Snap.
Kanan freaking texted me, and I got distracted by it for a second, and I was like, huh? But, so, full disclosure, I never saw the original series, Penny Dreadful. I don't think you necessarily need to. From what it looks like, they have absolutely nothing to do with each other than the fact that I guess Penny Dreadful City of Angels is using the name Penny Dreadful to garner viewership. But to me, it's worth it. I think if you're a fan of American Gods, you would like Penny Dreadful City of Angels because it has that weirdness to it and almost that that visual aesthetic from the first season of American Gods. So Penny Dreadful City of Angels, really quick, you have a lot of different players. A lot is going on, I will say that. But at the core of it, you have this demon called Magda, played by Natalia Dorman, whatever. She was in Game of Thrones and in Harry Potter. She plays Magda, and she's a demon who thinks that humankind in general is inherently evil. And she is the sister of the saint Santa Muerte. And she pretty much is out there to prove to her sister that humans will just do the worst things to each other. And she does this, Magda does this by integrating herself everywhere. So she pops up everywhere in different outfits, different people, blah blah blah. So you have her I'm trying to go really quick, right? So she plays this German housewife who is pretty much getting this doctor to cheat on his wife, but also he's part of the Nazis, but it's during the 1930s, back when the Nazis was still considered a quote unquote political party, World War II hadn't happened yet, but you have her integrating her life into, she's this poor German housewife who has a child and, her American husband hurts her, and so the German doctor, because he's German, right, and he's he feels a kindred spirit with this lonely German housewife, but so she's playing that. Then she's playing this assistant to this council member who's this real racist mother effer, and she's pushing him in a certain direction. Then she is integrating herself into the Pachucos, who's this group of Hispanics who are kind of their own subculture, and she's trying to get them, instead of them just being this group that's banding with each other for acceptance, because there's not only Hispanics in it, but there's gay people, blah blah blah. But she's trying to push them to start she's trying to push them to start a revolution, and then she's also into, oh god, what other group is she in right now? I can't remember. Anyway, that's her. So you have Magda, but on top of all this, right, you have all these other subplots because no one knows that this is going on, right? So on top of that, you have the main character, Tiago, who is Los Angeles's first Hispanic police officer. So he's dealing with a lot. Not only is he dealing with racism from his white cops, right? But he's dealing with pressure from his family who feel that he is betraying them by being a cop, because at this point the cops are being real assholes to the Hispanic community, including the councilman, because the councilman wants to put a highway in between their homes, and which very much reminds me of the Keystone Pipeline, but I'm not going to get that political on this podcast because, but, there's that one point where Tiago's brother Raul is in front of the councilman going, you're planning on putting this highway in between our homes. What are we supposed to do? Where are we supposed to go? And the councilman literally goes, where you came from. And he's like, I was born here. What? So there's all this racism going on. And then on top of that, you have this growing Nazism, blooming in Los Angeles. And Tiago's partner, Lewis, who is played by Nathan Lane, is this Jewish guy who is trying to solve why are all these Nazis suddenly popping up. So he's trying to solve that. On top of this, they're supposed to be solving the murder of this like white family, which like, you know, the head police and the councilman want to pin on the Hispanic community. And on top of that,
so much stress.
There's so much. And then on top of that, you have Sister Molly, played by Carrie Beesh, who played Donna Clark in *Halt and Catch Fire*. And she is developing a romance with Tiago. But there's something weird about that because she is like Sister Molly. She's not a real sister. It's like this persona, you know, she's like a radio televangelist, right? And her mother is so very controlling, and there's something sinister brewing there. I don't know. And I can't tell if she's lying, you know, or she's just keeping things from Tiago because it's so sinister. So there's so much going on. And I know that sounds like it's so much going on, but it really does work like beautifully. And there's so many great like scenes in it. Like there's at some point where Tiago's younger brother Mateo is trying to like, you know, figure out himself, and this guy who is part of like the Pachucos called Fly Rico like brings him in, and it's like so great. You know, I don't know, there's so many amazing moments in it that like I know it's a lot and I'm like fucking word vomiting here, but I really do enjoy it because of how many layers there are. And to me, it's one of those things where it's like all this stuff is going on, right? It feels like all this shit is going on and it's all going to explode, right? You have racism, you have Nazism, you have all this stuff going on, but does any of it truly matter? Because it's all orchestrated by Magda. It's like, because you see at one point, it's the police are standing off between, you know, them and the Hispanic community. And you see Magda, and she can't be seen at this point by anyone, right? But she's whispering in the ears on both sides. And that's why they start firing at each other. And it's like, it's all orchestrated by Magda, all of this. And it's just so crazy.
Wow, she's a real bitch.
I know. I don't know. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying she's a jerk.
No, I know. It really is. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's so good to me, like, everything that's playing out right now. Because there's so much shit, like, you don't expect. Like, as I said, like, with Sister Molly, it's like, I don't know what to think of her, right? Because it's like I think her and Tiago have this really great relationship, but I can't tell. It's like, who is being the liar here, right? Is it the mother who's overly, like, sinister, or is Molly the liar? Like, I can't tell yet. And then I just feel so bad for Tiago because he's just trying to do his job, but he gets shit everywhere he looks. Like, his family gives him shit. And then when he goes into the police department, they give him shit. And it's like, he really can't effing win, like, at all.
I feel so bad for him. He needs a vacation, Tia.
He needs a vacation. And then the councilman is like the biggest like asshole ever. He's so racist, and he's so like proud of how racist he is. It's just ridiculous. And I'm going to say this, right? I'm going to say this. He's definitely a Trump. I don't know if that made sense. He's definitely a Donald Trump. All right, I'm just going to say it.
I get what you mean. I'm thinking of it down.
He's definitely like this very cartoonish version, which isn't very hard to do, but this very cartoonish version of Donald Trump, I would say.
I was like for a second, I didn't know what you were saying, then I was like, oh, I get what you mean now. I get what you mean. No, I can, it definitely brings a certain image to mind, if that makes sense.
Yes. So I know that that's a lot, but I really suggest this show because I really am enjoying it. I actually can't wait to watch the new episode that's out today, just to see what like further happens. It's so crazy, the whole thing. Like, there's so many layers to it, but I just like the way they also recreate, like, the 1930s.
I was gonna say, like, there was a time there, like, you know, me and Tia talk like a lot about stories and settings, and she was like, "I need 1930s. I need it."
It's because of this show, because I love that it's set in, like, the 1930s. It's really just, like, kind of beautiful how they did it. But that's enough of me. Please watch Penny Dreadful, City of Angels. Brittany, what is your number 4?
I'm gonna do, it's an anime that is, I think it's still currently going on right now, but it's called Dr. Stone, and it's so good. And I have trouble saying a lot of their names, so forgive me if I don't specifically give them names in it, because I just started watching, but I've been watching it in Japanese dub. So, you know, it's a little harder to, like, put together what name I'm hearing at the time. But
Yeah.
Dr. Stone is about, there's a phenomenon that happens that turns everybody on Earth into stone. And it's like, I can't remember if it's been 2,000 years or like, it's 2 to 5,000 years that have passed since this happened. But the main character is a very brilliant young man. Like, he's very goofy. Like, he's like not goofy, but like he's super intelligent, but super, he gives people a lot of hell, but he ends up that basically with bat urine and guano and like it ends up making a certain kind of acid, right? And it frees them from the stone because they still can think. And for all these years, he's just been counting to keep his consciousness. Well, he ends up getting freed. He puts together what freed him from this and ends up making like a miracle concoction that he says. So he ends up, because they're all in the same area, you know, with how things have went. So a lot of the stones that he's finding are people he knew, because there's been no new humans, so, you know, whether or not they're his classmates. But the thing is that ends up happening while he's at school. The school has been, you know, obviously long, long gone. You know, he ended up that he was in a cave or something like that. And a lot of the stones he's running into are his classmates. Well, he ends up freeing one guy who is his friend. He ends up freeing another guy, which was like this crazy athletic student. And there's this big argument with the guy that's kind of like the more Tarzan-looking dude that's super muscular, because the main character wants to return the planet back to the way it was, free everybody, rebuild. Tarzan dude says that, hey, the nature reclaimed this. It's beautiful. Because it really is at this point. It's beautiful. He starts destroying the stones that are these people so that they can't be brought back. And there's this huge issue with all of this. But basically, they end up not seeing eye to eye. But later on, the main character finds this village because the man that, like, the spoiler alert, the man that adopted him as a child had went into space. And when this all happened, he went with, it was like, there was a Japanese dude, which is him, there was an American woman, and I think 3 Russian people that are up there. Well, they end up coming back down, and they obviously put together this village because there's like, I think there's like an even man to woman ratio with all this going on, but they end up reproducing. They die off, but this village grows and grows and grows. So this village is like untouched, right? But you can obviously tell it's supposed to be still in Japan, but you can tell they've had like foreign influence because there's some that are blonde, there's some that have like different colored eyes, and you can tell some look more Russian, if that makes sense. Like there's this big like variety, but he's wanting to teach this village like all this new stuff because they're still basically in their Stone Age. But basically I keep saying basically, but the Tarzan man, he ends up making his own miracle concoction. He's, like, freeing all the big, muscular people. So it's like this big war between, the kingdom of science, you know, that has all these tools, and like the kingdom of might, because he's only bringing back people that are either very like that can give back whether or not they're strong, muscular, or, you know, they are smart, but he doesn't want to bring back all these other things. He just wants to live off nature. But it's such a good show. Like, it really, like, catches your attention, but it's a funny show. So never at any point besides, like, when you think the main character gets killed off by Tarzan dude, that you really get stressed out. Like, there's stressful parts, but it's so funny, and it's always like the main character has the upper hand because he's so smart. But you end up learning a lot of this stuff. Like, people have, like, there was things that I didn't know how things work, but he goes in depth about how they discovered things, or what certain chemicals make this. It was just, I don't know, it was so fascinating. I was like, this show is really freaking cool. Yeah. Dr. Stone.
I'm looking at, like, pictures online to kind of get the imagery in my head. I like the anime style. Because I feel that a lot of, like, modern-day anime, I'm not necessarily a big fan of their drawing style, but I like this. Tell me, though, Brittany, that this guy doesn't look like Trunks going Super Saiyan.
I know. It looks like a leek. You know, like the vegetable.
Yes.
Yes.
It does, actually. That's hilarious.
You see the Tarzan-looking dude, and why I think he looks like Tarzan from the Disney movie?
I mean, I typed in Dr. Stone, so all it is really giving me, like, blonde guy. So I'm not seeing anything else. But, yeah, no. Huh?
You said the blonde guy? Or
Yeah.
the white?
The one with the green on his hair.
Yeah. Sorry. In some images it looks blonde, but it's like white-green, and that's why I was like, blonde? Who's blonde? You know?
Like a really, really, really light blonde. Like platinum blonde.
Yeah. It's so interesting, and like, there's one character that's like a double-handed snake. Like, he was a theater student, like, at the school, and he's always playing both sides. But he ends up joining, like, the good guys. But the whole reason is because the guy can make a soda, and he wants a soda so bad. He can't stand it. He just wants a Coke. And that's how he wins his loyalty, is by making him a Coke.
That is very funny. No, seriously, it's like, I wish that there were more animes that I could get into. I've really kind of strayed away from animes, even though I have nothing against animes. So many animes still are like, you know, I have such good memories of, say, like Dragon Ball Z and G Gundam and Cyborg 009, Digimon, like all of that. I just haven't watched anything current, but I've never heard of this, right? Which is good, because I feel like all people talk about now are Naruto, Bleach, oh god, what's the other one that everyone talks about?
One Piece?
Yeah, you know? So I feel like it's cool to hear about an anime that, like, I've not heard anyone talk about. It looks good. Do you know where you can find it?
Oh, it's actually on, I think it's on Crunchyroll.
I feel like everything's on Crunchyroll. AJ keeps telling me to get Crunchyroll, which, I mean, every time I hear the freaking name of the service, I just get really hungry.
I know, oh my gosh. This off-topic, Grandpa gave me money for my birthday. I'm sitting here going, there's sushi in my future. I'm a fortune teller, Tia. I just saw my own future.
Brittany, by the way, happy belated birthday. I forgot everyone wish Brittany a happy belated birthday. She's 26. Yay!
God, I'm so old. No, shut
You are not, shut up. Oh god. I was clapping and Lady just came to, like, dive into my lap right now. But yeah, I definitely, like, those out there who are listening and they're anime fans, I think that the way Brittany described this show, Dr. Stone, makes it really, I don't know, it makes it sound really interesting. Like, I would definitely be interested in watching it. Hopefully next time you're able to come to New York, we can watch some Dr. Stone.
Oh, and it goes by so quick. There's been a million times that we'll turn it on to watch it, right? And we'll go, it's over? Because you think about it, like, we've gotten so used to, like, with not having, like, doing streaming services, right? You're used to, like, 30 minutes to an hour, no commercials. But then you take a show that, you know that somewhere it's been posted where it has commercials in it, and your 30-minute show turns into, like, 20 minutes with all of it taken out. You're kind of like, man, this shit's short.
Right? No, I love it. Really quick before we move on, I have to mention this because I got really excited. So you remember the movie Fury, right?
Yeah.
And that was directed by David Ayer. I wrote this article about how underrated Fury is, like that it's an underrated war film, and David Ayer retweeted it, and I was like, yes!
That's wild. Tia has so much, like, traction with Twitter. I'm very...
Well, it's to me, I feel like Twitter is the one that there's the most interaction, so that's why I try and be so active on it. But yeah, so sorry, I didn't mean to shout that out. But yes, everyone make sure you check out Dr. Stone. I keep wanting to say Dr. Strange, Dr. Stone. I will take number 3. I know that I put this on another list, but I think you should definitely watch it. And this is actually the next 2 are going to be completed series, but it is Most Dangerous Game on Quibi. This is definitely the best show on Quibi, and it is certainly a great show. So Most Dangerous Game, if you guys know the old story, it's a novel. It's been adapted into plenty of different shows, movies, concepts, yada yada. It's people pretty much wanting to hunt other people. And in this show on Quibi, you have Liam Hemsworth, who is a young entrepreneur in great, health, whatever, has a wife, she's pregnant, and then he gets the news that he has an inoperable brain tumor and will die within weeks. And he doesn't know what to do because obviously, who would think at like a young age you would die, and also his wife is pregnant and his business capital isn't doing very well, so he's nervous about leaving her with nothing. When he goes to exit the hospital, he's given a card of someone who can help him, and he meets Christoph Waltz's character. And Christoph Waltz's character says, well, I can't give you a cure. I can give you a means to make money for your family once you're gone. I do, run this game. People pay a shit ton of money to pretty much hunt other people. And of course that sounds like, what? Like, you sit there and you're like, is this even real? Like, how do you even explain something like that and with a straight face? And the way Christoph Waltz's character was explaining it was really truly as if it really just was some business venture. And he explains to Liam Hemsworth, you have to agree to it. Everything is done with your approval. And you will be hunted. You are fit, you are young, and for every hour that you survive, a certain amount of money will be put into your account. And if you survive the 24 hours, then around, $50 million will be put into your account. He's like, and that will be for your wife and child. He's like, you're going to die in a few weeks, so either you die here or you die in a few weeks, but at least when you die, that you will your family will be taken care of, right? And Liam Hemsworth at first thinks it's fucking nuts, obviously, but he decides to go along with it. And for 24 hours, he is literally hunted by 5 freaking sociopaths. All the while, Christoph Waltz is pretty much in his ear and tracking his movements via phone. And the whole thing is just wild, Brittany. It's so wild because you find out all this other shit as you go on in the series. And even though, the thing about Quibi is that the episodes are like no longer than 10 minutes long, and in some cases they're only about 8 minutes long, and you're like, how can you get so much out of only like say 8 minutes per episode? There's about 15 episodes, so it just feels like a really long movie. It's really
like
good,
little
Brittany.
breaks in between.
Yeah, exactly. But since all of them are out now, you could literally just sit there for like an hour, and you'll be able to watch this story unfold. Liam Hemsworth is really good. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to wonder, can he fight back?
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's allowed to fight, and he does. He's allowed to fight back. The only rules is, because it takes place in Detroit, right? So the only rules is that he's not allowed to leave Detroit, and I think that the only weapons that aren't allowed are like fucking bombs or something, or guns. I think guns aren't allowed because that makes it too easy, So it's like, so the three rules are: you can't tell anyone, especially the cops. The second you tell someone, that's it. You forfeited the money. So you can't tell anyone, you can't leave Detroit, and you can't use guns. But besides that, you can run, and you can absolutely fight back. And he does. Like, he fights back, because at first he kind of, like, doesn't really, I think, grasp the seriousness. And it's like, no, people are literally trying to kill you. And they will. And they have done this before.
I was like wondering, can you kill the people that are hunting you?
Spoiler alert, he does. He kills, I think, one of them because they were trying to kill him. Yeah, it's actually funny because, I don't know, do you mind? Do you want me to tell you the ending of it?
I'm so torn. We'll do it after the show.
We'll do after the show, but the way they ended I thought was really interesting. But he's really good at Liam Hemsworth, and Christoph Waltz, of course. Like, he played this very much character where he's like, attaboy, I believed in you. I'm rooting for you. I really am rooting for you. I want you to make it the 24 hours so that, your family gets all the money. But at the same time, he's like, what's happening? Why aren't these other players, getting to him, blah, blah, blah. Or like because within the first hour, he gets caught by one of the guys, right? And Christoph Waltz is like, this is so disappointing. This isn't a good game. Our investors won't be happy with how short this game was, like, so he's very much like both, like, it's the game, but also, I'm rooting for you, boy. Like, keep going.
Are you free after the 24 hours?
Yeah, after the 24 hours, it ends. That's it. You are a free man, and you are free to walk away with that money. No strings attached or anything. Like, literally, it's like one of those things where, remember in The Dark Knight when the Joker, like, says to Harvey Dent, he's like, when I say that your girlfriend's death was nothing personal, I mean it. And it's like, that is really how this is, where it's like, it's nothing personal. It's just business.
It's just business. Sounds terrifying.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it sounds good, though. I do need to watch it, if only for you-know-who.
Christoph Waltz. Yeah, he's good in it. I think you and I were supposed to do a list of top 10 Christoph Waltz's characters, and I was definitely going to put that character on the list.
No, I think we ended up doing Quentin Tarantino. No, we did something.
No, we did Quentin Tarantino instead.
Yeah, it was good though.
Yeah, but I don't know. I really suggest it. And again, it's so short. It's an hour, even though it's a show. It's an hour, all the episodes combined. So you can, like, sit down and watch it. It's really great. And Quibi is free right now, so there's literally no need. I'm also directing that towards you, Brittany. But yeah.
So personally attacked right now.
Make sure you check out Most Dangerous Game. Brittany, what is your number one technically, even though it is number 2 on the list?
You're gonna laugh, okay? Because it's an Oh, you jerk. It's an oldie but a goodie, but I'm feeling nostalgic. I'm
Okay.
gonna go with Supernatural. You have so
Oh,
your interview with, I'm trying to remember his last name. Rich, is it Spate or Spite? Like, how do you pronounce
Spate.
it?
Richard
Spate.
Spate.
Okay, I was like, I don't want to butcher this, but it was Richard Spate who played Gabriel, who we all love dearly. But Supernatural was so good. Like, anybody I've asked that has watched, like, I have a friend right now, he goes, has anybody ever watched Supernatural? It's so good. Like, I feel like it's like a drug. Like, there's always like, okay, this is how it goes. It goes, no, I don't need that in my life, right? It goes, no, that's fine. And then you find it on your own, and you go, oh my God, this is the best thing since sliced bread. And you become obsessed. You want to go to the conventions. And then you get to the end of it, and you're like, I need to drop this bad habit. But it's so good. It's so good. It's just that, like, after, how many seasons did they have? Did they have 20? Did they end up having 20? Or did they have 13? No, they had 13.
15.
15. Yeah, they had 15. But, you have Dean and Sam Winchester, a couple of, what would you call them? Because they hunt more than demons. Would you consider them just strictly demon hunters or monster hunters?
I think that at first they qualified themselves as demon hunters, but yeah, it became so much more as time went on.
I think it's like one of those things with the show. It was like the first few seasons are completely disturbing. Like, you're right. I think there was one time we were talking where you're like, I have to watch some of these episodes with like the lights on or like during the daytime because they're so creepy. And, because it's called Supernatural for a reason, right? You got that supernatural shit happening. You have this scary, but you have such like good chemistry between Dean and Sam, the brothers, and how protective Dean is over Sam, and learning all these lore about these certain like monsters, the demons, and then later on the angels. You have their father who doesn't last very long in the show, but also played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan. One of his, like, most well-known actual roles in any, like, a TV show is from that. But, which is funny because they ended up having, like, a weird crossover between Negan, like, on Twitter and all that between the brothers. But, I don't know. It's just so interesting because it became where every episode was, like, a new story, right? And then they started to mellow out when they went in with the Angels and everything. It became much more like each season was more of a story rather than just each episode being like, say, like Criminal Minds, right? Or Law and Order SVU, where each episode is not normally a continuation of the last. Like, you will end with a cliffhanger, right? Right at the end of one of the SVU episodes, and then they never touch on it again. But with Supernatural, it was a lot like that until they started to mellow into like a plot line for each season. You had Crowley, which is the reason why, well, technically my brother's cat, but my cat is named Crowley. He is pure black. He is long-haired. I had to name him Crowley for a reason because I was so obsessed with it. And me and Tia were obsessed. We went to the convention in Houston. Got that picture with Richard and Tomo Pennicott. I was supposed to get one with Mark Shepard, but his wife went into labor. So that's how I got the Tomo Pennicott, which, you know what? No joke. I was happy about it. Like, that ended up to be a fair trade, but most people I know have at least seen the first few seasons of Supernatural, but it's a really good show to just lose yourself in, like, to get to see all those different kinds of monsters. But there is a point, I think, towards the end that you start to peter off, or you may be a super fan that can survive every season. But I think I started to lose it by the, like, Eternal Darkness character. I can't remember their name, but the darkness.
Yeah, that was me too.
Yeah, that's where they started to lose me, and they were doing so good. Like, I know, like, there's certain enough that I could at least stick around for it.
So it's so funny. I think I showed you on Twitter. I found that picture of you, me, and Richard Spate, right? And I brought that up in my interview. I don't know where it is. I think like nerves got the best to me because I was like, oh my God, I'm interviewing this guy who like I loved his character on this show so much. So it's like literally right off the bat, my first thing was, listen, I don't want to make this interview weird, but and I was like, you know, I went to a convention a few years ago, and I got one of the photo ops with you, and you had a really bushy beard at the time. What's the beard situation going on? Why the hell I thought about asking that? But he did respond really well. What?
Oh, that's so good. That's just so funny. Sorry, I'm just laughing. But what did he say?
He was like, yes, someone finally is asking me about my beard. He was like, thank God. He went on this whole thing about how he was going like full man, like beard, like bear Neanderthal type thing, but his wife like was having none of it, so he had to trim it. So now he has a trimmed beard. He actually liked it. At the end of the interview when we were signing off, he was like, thank you for asking about my beard.
There's something about men and their facial hair where they are like, it's like their other child that they can grow on their face. Like, it becomes a part of them.
See, Paulie's so not like that. He doesn't like his facial hair. Anytime he grows in, I'm like, oh, it doesn't look bad. He's like, I have to shave now. But
Like, seeing him like completely like shaven, like he always looks like freshly shaven.
yeah, he doesn't like having any facial hair. But I loved Supernatural. As you said, the first few seasons definitely were like darker, more of like a they felt like more of like, oh God, like a nighttime horror story, you know, like someone reading it to you. And I didn't mind that particularly, but I always say, like, looking back, like, the first 3 seasons were, like, you know, you had to get through them a little. I wasn't as invested. It was once season 4 happened, they start introducing, like, angels and everything, because I dig that type of shit. Obviously, I love the character Castiel, right? But it's, like, in general, I like that, especially because you had the character Dean, who so denied that angels existed. He like so didn't believe in them, which was like crazy because there's demons and like monsters and vampires, but you don't believe in angels. Like, what sense does that make?
I think it was like after you've seen such bad shit, you have to go, okay, there's no good existence out there. It's just bad shit, Tia.
And that was his thing, right? That's what was his argument about it was, you know, we've seen all this bad, like where the hell is God in all of this? But I liked how season 4 set up this whole ongoing battle between, like, the angels are not who you thought they were, right? And then you have Crowley, who they sometimes have to work with, who's literally at some points becomes the demon, you know, the leader of hell. And then you have Lucifer, played by Mark Pellegrino, which was so effing good. Like, so effing good. Like, that was all great. And, whatchamacallit. So you had that, and I, like, to me personally, right, I stopped watching after season 11, which was The Darkness. But
yes,
I think
that's where it lost me, too.
I think, to me, what kind of made me at first start not being as enthusiastic about Supernatural is the fact that it's okay. I don't mean to go on a rant, right? But in The Walking Dead, right? Remember season 4? The entire season was them going to Terminus, and then the Terminus people was like one episode, and it's like, wait, we spent a whole season going to Terminus, and then you have these cannibalistic people for one episode, and that's it? And it's like, I felt the same way with freaking Supernatural, where it was like all this promo of Demon Dean, and Jensen Ackles played Demon Dean so well, and it only lasted 3 episodes, and I was like, I can't.
I know.
So that frustrated me, but I will still. All right, let's see if you can remember, Brittany. To me, my favorite seasons were seasons 8 and 9, because season 8 had Benny, and season 9 had Gadrill. So what were if you can remember, what do you think your favorite seasons were?
Definitely. I had such an obsession with Benny back in the day, like, and when they killed him off, like, we'll send him back to purgatory. And his whole promise about bringing him back, right?
Yeah.
Did you forget to bring back your best buddy, Benny, who, like, you even had, like, a hallucination over, like, at some point? Like, this deep, meaningful relationship because y'all were stuck in purgatory for, like, a long-ass time together, and y'all took care of one another. But you can't come and bring him back. I call bullshit.
I call malarkey.
Malarkey. And the Trill Star was so good.
Oh, I know. I loved Benny so much. Yeah, that was sad. That whole thing, him having to, like, oh god, that, like, scene between him and Dean, like, the acceptance that, you know, that's how he's gonna have to get to purgatory to retrieve his brother Sam. And, you know, Sam never liked Benny because he's like, we spent our whole lives hunting vampires, and now you're friends with a vampire. And it's like, just let it be, okay? Just let it be.
To be fair, Benny was, like, eating off of blood packs. Like, he was
trying. He was trying. He was really trying. And I hated how much Sam disliked Benny, because I was like, he was the best thing. Like, honestly, freaking Dean's relationship with his brother was mad complicated. His friendship with Castiel was really dramatic. Him and Benny just needed to get into their car, and just drive. Like, fuck everyone else, just drive. What'd you say?
I would have, like, watched an entire show of Benny and Dean hunting bad vampires.
Right? I would do it 100%. But yeah, I can't even lie. Like, first of all, Supernatural has 15 seasons. It didn't get to film its last 3 episodes. They're still waiting on that because of COVID. They were in the middle of that, which actually is funny. During my interview with Richard, he filmed an episode for Supernatural, and that was his last episode that he filmed, you know, like, he directed, because, you know, he directed a few episodes. So he got to finish that before things shut down. But Supernatural still has 3 episodes to go before it wraps everything up. But it's 15 seasons. It's super bingeable. Like, you could sit down, and each season has, what, like 20 episodes, 22 episodes. So if you're sitting there and you don't know what to freaking watch, and you just need a show that can just go on, yeah, you got Supernatural. You got Jensen Ackles, who is great as Dean, Jared Padalecki as Sam. You have all these side characters that get introduced throughout the seasons who are phenomenal. Every season, there's literally nothing that you can't like. And I will tell you, Brittany, you know what I just thought about? You know who are great villains? Great villains?
Who?
The Leviathan, season 7.
I knew that was what you were going to say, but I was like, man, you're right, girl. The Leviathans were really good.
I saw some people hating on season 7 and the Leviathans. I'm like, they were one of the only villains that actually were follow through. Them and Lucifer. Like, they were teased, and they followed through with how absolutely awful they were.
Right. They were, like, kind of funny. Like remember the main dude? He was, like, the televangelist.
I liked Dick Roman, and that one scene with him and Crowley going over the contract, and the contract's, like, so long, and Dick Roman's like, all right, let's get into it. Like...
Right, like, and they didn't expect them to look at it at all, and you see Crowley still sitting there as they're going over each item.
Yeah, right? Because it's like the demons, they probably are like, oh, they're not going to look, and, like, Dick Roman's like, no, we're going to look through everything.
Right. Oh my gosh. And he had a problem with like almost everything on there.
You kind of make me like miss Supernatural. It's been so long since I've dove into it,
Oh, no.
and it's like shit. That was a great show. That was a
I
great
have
show,
a friend
Brittany.
that's so into it right now, and my brain went, okay, when all this stuff is over with, where we can have gatherings again, I definitely want to go to a Supernatural convention.
If they'll even do that, it's funny. I asked Richard about that. Like, what do you think like is going to happen? He's like, I don't know how comfortable people are going to be with large gatherings for a while. So who knows if that's even going to be a thing. But yeah, I would go to one. I would go to another Supernatural convention. Why not? Even though I haven't watched like the last freaking 3 seasons. Who cares? But
Watch
yeah.
10 seasons of something in like 2 days. I think you would be able to catch up.
but yeah, great pick with Supernatural. You definitely need to be watching it if you've never watched it before. And it's current. It's technically ongoing. So Brittany, we are down to the number 1. We have had a awesome list so far. I just have to relive it with you. And it's going to be Prison Break for number 10. Number 9 is Love Life. Number 8 is American Gods. Number 7 is I Know This Is True. Or I Know This Much Is True, sorry. Number 6 is Walking Dead. Number 5 is Penny Dreadful, City of Angels. Number 4 is Dr. Stone. Number 3 is Most Dangerous Game. Number 2 is Supernatural. And number 1 is a show that just wrapped up and is absolutely phenomenal. And it is called Defending Jacob. Defending Jacob.
This one was going to be on here.
You have to watch Defending Jacob. It's on Apple TV Plus. It is so good. So it's an 8-episode miniseries based on the book of the same name, and it stars Chris Evans, Michelle Dockery, and Jaden Martell. And Pablo Schreiber is in it, but we'll get to that in a second. So really quick, the whole thing about Defending Jacob is Chris Evans plays a ADA in Boston named Andy Barber, who is living essentially the pretty all-American suburban life, right? He has a really good job. His wife has a really good job. They have this gorgeously big house. They have a son. They're pretty much like this all-American family. And they're planning on going to Mexico for Christmas, right? That's how it starts. When suddenly the body of a high schooler pops up. And at first, it's like Andy is on the case. And he's like, oh, Jacob, to his son, wasn't that your classmate? That's so sad, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly there's evidence that points to Jacob being the killer. Andy, the ADA who's in charge of the case of finding the killer, is like finding out that your 13-year-old son is potentially the killer is crazy. So Andy gets kicked off the case, obviously. So pretty much the whole show is like defending Jacob. Andy trying to find ways to keep his son out of jail to prove his innocence that he so believes, right? And throughout the season, it's like his wife, Lori, keeps doubting. Like you could see, like they are reacting to the situation in 2 totally different ways. Whereas Andy is like he's like vigorous in wanting to, prove Jacob's innocence. And Lori is almost like, how could I not see the signs? Like she's almost like
one's in denial and one's like already fully accepted.
Yeah, Lori's like regressing into, and she's like thinking back on all like these things that like showed that her son had some sort of violent tendencies, right? And on top of all this, you find out Andy has been hiding a secret to Lori during their whole like 17-year relationship, which is that Andy Andy's father, played by J.K. Simmons, is a violent criminal and rapist who's serving a lifetime imprisonment sentence. So yeah, right. So that gets found out. So the press and, the ADA are like trying to say that there's a murder gene, and like, oh my God, Lori is like, I swear everything like makes sense to her. She's like, Angie, you never had friends. You're so like, you don't, you never had friends. You're always so withdrawn, and our child, like, it makes sense, the Barber family line, and I will say that they did try and play that a few times, like Andy being a little, like, angry and aggressive, but it's like, he was the most normal one in that whole family.
Nice.
So the whole show is like them just trying to, like, the family trying to deal with all of this, because not only is their son accused of being a murderer, but they're also facing like a lot of scrutiny amongst the community. Like Lori gets let go from her job because of it. They are looked at funny when they go to the supermarket because, trials don't start right away. Like trials start months and months after. So it's like they still have to technically live their lives, but now they're just being looked at weird. And then on top of that, you have Pablo Schreiber playing the ADA, who is like really gunning for Jacob, But then it's like, is he just doing his job technically? But anyway, it's such a good show. Chris Evans does a phenomenal job in it. Michelle Dockery is great. It is really keeps you on your toes, right? You really are like, is Jacob the killer? Is he not the killer? It keeps going back and forth. J.K. Simmons is awesome. There's so many parts where you're just like, what the hell is going to go on next? And it's phenomenal, Brittany. I know I said that before, and I'm rambling, but every week I tuned in and I was ready to see what is the next chapter of this story, because it really just, it played a lot close to the chest. And I will say that I read how the book ends, and the show does end somewhat different, but also similar. I don't know which one I like better, but yeah, the ending was definitely like, whoa.
It's one of those, like, where is it one of those shows where it definitely plays you on whether or not he actually did it? Like, you want to believe, like, oh, there's no way. And then it plays, like, where the wife has already accepted it, like, and you're like, oh, I guess he's a killer, and the other guy's in denial. Is there a lot of back and forth?
Absolutely, because there's at some points where you're like, I think Jacob did it. Because, they're like, Jacob was bullied by the kid who got killed, right? And Jacob's kind of a little messed up. Like, everyone reveals that he was really into this site called the Cut Up Room, which was about people, putting their fantasies about cutting people. And then, and at the trial, Pablo Schreiber's character, Neil, reveals that Jacob had put a story online of him killing someone in a very similar fashion to the way this kid was killed. So there's all these signs, but then at the same time they introduce this guy who is a pedophile, and he also knew the kid who was dead. So you're like, maybe it's the pedophile. So you definitely are sitting there like, every episode you're like, I think it's the pedophile. No, I think it's Jacob. I think it's the pedophile. I think it's Jacob. And there's at some point that's so intense because Andy, right, has been so defensive of Jacob this whole time, believing that there's no way that his son could be the killer. But there's at some point after the first day of trial where Neil, played by Pablo Schreiber, the ADA, brought up the story. And so the Barber family are just sitting in the car afterwards, and frickin' Andy just turns around and he looks so desperate, and he's like, did you do it? He's like, just, you have to tell me now. I've spent this year, defending you and thinking that you did, but you have to tell me, did you do this?
Oh, crap. Jeez.
Yeah.
I think I would have already been at that point before a year, though.
No, Lori definitely loses it. She definitely has a mental breakdown at the end of everything, and she does something that is really like, you sit there and you're like, oh man, I know your kid is messed up, but like, you are a mother.
Right, right. Like you gotta do something for your kid. Man, it sounds stressful, but good. It's definitely, like, isn't it funny that there's some shows that you instantly know that somebody will like? My mom would love that.
Yeah, it is so good. Like, it really just, I don't know. You sat there and you're like, I have no idea who's the killer. I have no idea what's going on. And I think that a lot of people don't necessarily think of maybe Chris Evans as a good actor because they're just used to seeing him in the role of Captain America, which, I mean, was great. So I don't know why you would think he's a bad actor, but maybe you're
Maybe
just
they
like, oh,
think
it's just...
more of his body than more of his acting.
Right. But you gotta like, if you have that sort of mindset, you have to watch Defending Jacob because that will completely like prove you wrong.
I just love hearing you so passionate about it. Like, you really, really love this show. It makes me want to watch it, but I also don't like being stressed out.
I'm sorry. I know, like, I definitely was going on, but I just couldn't believe how good it was. To me, like, everyone was great in it. I loved Chris Evans. I loved Pablo Schreiber. I didn't realize he was in the show. So when he popped in, I go, I recognize that very tall man there.
Like, you were probably like, well, hello again, sir.
Well, because what, like, Chris Evans is, I think, like 6'1", and Pablo Schreiber's like 6'5". So next to Pablo, Chris looks like super short. You're like, oh wait, no, he's tall. But you know who also is in it? It's funny. Remember in season 2 of American Gods, the woman who plays the Hindu goddess of war?
Yes.
She's in it. She plays Andy and Neil's boss.
What's up with all these, like, they must all know each other. They're like, hey, like, hey, Rick, hey, Andy, all another day on the job, right?
I love it. But yeah, Defending Jacob is great. I know that the ending, the ending definitely left a lot for interpretation, but I liked it, and I'm okay with filling in blanks, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they all deserve awards, and if the Emmys come and none of them get nominated, I'm going to be really effing pissed. But yeah, Defending Jacob. Anyway, I know that I very passionately word vomited all of that. Brittany, did you have anything to add about hearing about Defending Jacob or anything?
It definitely sounds really good. It sounds like a wild ride. I also almost started laughing in the middle of it, though, because, when cats do that little sniffy thing, and they, like, gape their mouth real, like, wide, and they just stare at you? Toby was doing that right as you were saying something, like, really intense, and I was like, gosh darn it, Toby, don't make me laugh right in the middle of this. Don't make me laugh.
That's because he's trying to smell you.
I know, but I smell nasty, boy. That's
maybe that's what he's smelling.
No, but the show does sound great, though. I definitely get why you're so passionate about it, because I've heard you go on about this show for a long time.
Well, I mean, it was like 8 weeks because they did it by week, so I don't know. It was really good. Like, watch it. Get the free trial of Apple TV Plus and watch it, like I did.
I got you.
But Brittany, this was a great list. Anyone who's listening, I think that we kind of nailed it on all these shows that you should watch, both current and otherwise, which I think technically most of the shows that we talked about are still producing shit to this day. Supernatural is, Walking Dead is. If anything, I think just Defending Jacob ended, and Most Dangerous Game, but whatever. You need to watch it. You have time. Shit's still on lockdown. But Brittany, please take a moment to promote yourself before we wrap up here.
gonna say you can find me at twitch.tv. My username is itty bitty Brit. I have been I got quarantined for a bit because I had the flu. And
Brittany, we can't hear you. Something wrong with your phone here.
I think the Wi-Fi's being weird.
Okay,
Yeah, but
can
you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, while being quarantined, when I had the flu and everything, I was streaming every day because I was like, man, it's so much fun, and I do get to have so much fun with my viewers, even though they pick on me incessantly. But it's the good, like, brotherly, sisterly love kind of thing going on. But we hit 1,000 followers. I was very pumped about that. That means I have to do Twitch Sings today, which is a karaoke. So it's basically Twitch's version of karaoke. So I am definitely going to have some drinks before I do that because I'm a little nervous. But I definitely, I love Twitch. I love getting to just hang out with everybody and play games while doing it. It's definitely for like the lonely types out there that don't like to leave the house, especially now. It's a great time for it. And you can find me at Twitter under ittybitty_Brit0, which is normally if I have any schedule changes, schedule updates, pictures, anything, it's all going to be there. So, yeah.
Please, everyone, make sure that you check that out. I'm going to tune into that today. I need to witness that. But make sure you check Brittany out. As for me, I'm on Twitter and Instagram, TFAB. I have lots of reviews, articles, interviews. Later today, like nighttime, we are going to be doing a review show, actually, of Defending Jacob, which will be really cool. And you can check out my interview with Richard Spate and my article that got retweeted by David Ayer. I'm still super pumped about that. So make sure you check that out. And of course, you can check out Geek Vibes Nation at geekvibesnation.com. We are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Vero, and anything and everything in between. So thank you for listening to our top 10, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their day. See you guys.
Have a great time.